Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I'd like to call the order of the Everett City Council meeting of May 15th, 2024. The City Council meets all requirements of the State of Washington's Open Public Meeting Act. Community members are welcome to join either in person or remote via Zoom or by calling in. For those who wish to participate in the future via Zoom, you'll find the instructions to register for public comment on the City of Everett website under the City Council Department. Please note that we do not allow comments of any kind of campaigning, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. We also do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. We ask that the audience refrain from clapping, cheering, and booing, and no signage of any kind are allowed in the chambers. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Bader.
Here.
Councilmember Toohey.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely. Councilmember Vogely is here. Councilmember Fossey. Here. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Here.
President Schwab.
Here. I'd like to ask Councilmember Bader to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like Councilmember Zarlingo to read the land acknowledgement.
Gladly. This council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Stohopes people, and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and the water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion for the approval of the minutes for May 8, 2024?
Yes, so move.
Second the motion?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Toohey.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely. Councilmember Vogely's vote is yes. Councilmember Fossey.
Abstain.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Abstain.
President Schwab.
Yes. Well, good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, President Schwab and council members. I apologize in advance. I have a few comments this evening. First, we've heard some concerns from a speaker regarding security concerns related to the public computers at the library. And she's been here a number of weeks in a row, so I wanted to make some comments. Cybersecurity is a very real concern for our IT departments, and they work very hard to keep our data, our networks, and our devices secure. I want to assure the council and our public and that our IT department recently conducted another review of our public computers at the library and verified that these computers are safe to use. We have antivirus software on these computers, and it is kept up to date. The computers also use a product called Deep Freeze, which protects the operating systems from changing during the day when the public is using the computers. So when a patron logs off, temporary user data files are wiped, and a new session is started to maintain the privacy of the patrons who use the computer last. So we take the privacy and security of our library patrons very seriously, and I really want to ensure the public that they know that these computers are safe to use. And so wanted to share that first comment. And then additionally, last week, Councilmember Ryan shared some comments regarding the use of servant within our code. And the topic of language choice in our code has come up before. Thanks to the incredible, fantastic input from our Diversity Advisory Board, especially member Natalia Toon, the council did pass an ordinance in 2021 that allows for updates to Everett Municipal Code for purposes of removing outdated and unnecessary references to gender, which is really great. The state still uses gender-specific language, but we have been able to update that, which is fantastic. I know the state legislature approved a change in RCWs in 2023 to remove the word servant. I appreciate that. Our staff has reported that the word servant does appear in our code, especially in places that refer to a definition like agents, servants, or employees. And I've asked legal to look into this, and we will report back. So thanks for bringing that up, and we will follow up. And then this weekend is Clean Everett. It's this Saturday, the 18th. So all the junk you have in your house, it's time to get rid of it. We have 4 sites: Cascade High School, North Middle School, Lowell Elementary, Sequoia High School. They'll all be open for community to dump trash from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And Cascade High School will also be accepting yard debris, and all of our youth advisory board members will be there, and I'm sure they'd be excited to see you. The 4 sites will also have Cedar Grove compost bags available. So while supplies last, if you get there early, you get a compost bag. And in addition, Thornton A. Sullivan will be hosting a litter pickup beginning at 9 a.m. And folks can meet at the main sign-in at the parking lot and help clean up that park. So again, thank you to all of our volunteers that are organizing our Clean Everett campaign, and hope to see you there this weekend. Additionally, this weekend is Fisherman's Music Festival. It's the first of very many downtown Everett events, so thrilled to welcome them again this year. And on Friday, prior to Fisherman's Music Festival, it's Bike Everywhere Day, which I kind of love. I love riding my bike. I kind of don't like riding it in traffic, so it forces me to ride in traffic. So Friday is Bike Everywhere Day, and if you bike down to the Everett Station District, our transit station will be hosting a event from 8 to noon, and I think they even look at your bike and make minor repairs and check for air in your tires and do all that good stuff, and there'll be vendors there, so please join us at Everett Station for Bike Everywhere Day from 8 to noon. And then lastly, this month is Jewish American Heritage Month, and Everett is stronger because of the diversity we have in our community. And I'm very pleased to honor Jewish Heritage Month. And I have Rabbi Court here from Temple Beth Or, but before I invite her forward to say a few words, I wanted to read a proclamation. So whereas Jewish American Heritage Month is celebrated each May as an opportunity to honor generations of Jewish Americans and their contributions to American history, culture, and society. And Everett proudly embraces the great diversity among those who live, work, and visit our city. And Jewish people are an important part of our city's fabric, with members of Temple Beth Or in Everett contributing to our community in many important ways. And we recognize the many different ways Jewish Americans connect to their Jewish identity, including culturally, religiously, ethnically, and following Jewish values. And as we celebrate the deep history of Jewish American community, we must also acknowledge the increasing presence of anti-Semitism in Jewish communities throughout our state and nation. And we must be proactive in educating people about anti-Semitism, as well as identifying and addressing harmful anti-Jewish rhetoric. And the city of Everett stands firmly against anti-Semitism and condemns all forms of hate and bigotry. And we reaffirm our commitment to combating anti-Semitism wherever it exists and preserving the public safety, security, well-being, and equal treatment of our Jewish community members. And Everett is made stronger by the rich diversity of our community, and we are proud to celebrate our Jewish American community members this month. Now, therefore, I, Cassie Franklin, Mayor of the City of Everett, and on behalf of its City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Jewish American Heritage Month, and I urge all our residents in our community to join us in celebrating Jewish American heritage and standing up against anti-Semitism and other forms of hate impacting the Jewish community. And with that, I would like to invite Rabbi Court forward to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Franklin.
If you could please push the button for the microphone. Thank you.
One. This one?
You're good?
Nope. Oh, great. It's really wonderful to receive such a welcome. This has by far been the most difficult year to be Jewish in America that I have experienced in my 40-something years. I grew up Jewish in the Pacific Northwest in the 1990s, and anti-Semitism, hatred towards Jews, and misinformation about Jews for political gain was something that I merely learned about in history books. It was never something that I experienced myself. This year, the American Jewish community has felt trauma and hate like no other time in recent history. The October 7th Hamas terrorist attack on Israel was felt as trauma throughout the Jewish diaspora. The Jewish community is small and close-knit, making up only 0.2% of the world population. But even here in Snohomish County, thousands of miles away from that terrorist attack, we are connected to people who were brutally murdered and kidnapped. A dear friend of one of our founding member, Sonia Siegel-Vexler, her friend, Vivian Silver, was murdered on October 7th. Vivian Silver dedicated her life to Israeli-Palestinian coexistence. She chose to live near the Gaza border to support Palestinian civilians. The organization that she founded, Women Wage Peace, was recently nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. She regularly drove Palestinians to Israeli hospitals for cancer treatment. Initially, she was believed to have been kidnapped, and her sons were not only terrified for her, but spoke out publicly how worried they were that Hamas militants would locate and murder Vivian's Palestinian contacts. It took months to identify Vivian's body because it was so badly desecrated. Like Vivian Silver, the vast majority of Jewish individuals in Snohomish County are not only concerned about the well-being of Israel, we are concerned about the well-being of the Palestinian people too. Each Shabbat, as we gather as community at Temple Beth Or, we pray for the safety and peace of our extended family in Israel, and we pray for safety and peace for Palestinian civilians. This conflict is not binary. It is extremely nuanced. In addition to concern for those thousands of miles away, here in the US, including the Pacific Northwest, including in our synagogue, we have experienced a dramatic rise in anti-Semitic incidences since October 7th. So what does this look like for Temple Beth Or? Our site has been targeted by at least 7 apparent anti-Semitic threats in 2023 to 2024, including aggressive emails, anti-Semitic graffiti, forced entry attempts, and threatening objects left on our front porch or thrown at our building. Our students in high schools and colleges are being harassed simply for being Jewish. Jewish communities have been excluded from DEI work and interfaith communities that we've been a part of for decades because of assumptions made about who we are and what our political beliefs are. This year, more than ever, I appreciate the relationship that our synagogue has with the city of Everett. The proclamation that was read celebrating American Jewish Heritage Month in Everett is not an empty statement. The first call I received after the October 7th attack was the next day on October 8th from now Chief of Police, John DeRoos. It was Sunday morning. He called, I want to say at 9 o'clock on my cell phone. He got my number from Chief Templeman, and he wanted to let me know that he knew about the attack in Israel, and he knew that American Jewish communities may be targeted, and he proactively offered to keep an eye on things, knowing that there would be children in our building that morning for religious school. Mayor Franklin's office reached out shortly after simply to check in and acknowledge the trauma that we were experiencing. Mayor Franklin's office was not looking to make a political statement. She simply wanted to check in on neighbors. I am so proud that Mayor Franklin, that this city council, that the Everett Police Department is exemplifying local political leadership by focusing on supporting your constituency, while so many other elected officials and city councils throughout the country have allowed foreign politics, American foreign policy, and anti-Semitic rhetoric into their communities. Thank you not only for supporting your Jewish neighbors, but also for celebrating your Jewish neighbors with this proclamation for American Jewish Heritage Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. And with that, I have no further comments this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, now it's time for public comment, which includes written acknowledgement. Under our rules, written comments shall be considered in the same manner as oral comments. The commenter must provide their name and city of residence. Written comments submitted without the information will not be part of the official record. So good evening, Angie. Do we have any written comments? And anyone signed up?
Good evening, President Schwab. We have no written comments, but we have one person in chambers for public comment. So if Leo could please come to the podium, and please state your full name, city of residence, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Leo Lorge, City of Everett. All cell phones turned off. We didn't have cell phones 60 years ago. I've been coming city council meetings for 61 years. Tonight marks 61 years. I usually don't speak, I listen. But some of the old dogs that are buried and gone, chiefs of police, fire chiefs, you guys were all sleeping last night. You know where I was? Walking the streets of Everett. Everett's not safe like it used to be. I didn't see one Everett squad car for 4 hours. Washington State Patrol was on duty. FBI was on duty because that's who I was with, an FBI agent that's a personal friend of mine, and she didn't want me walking around like she's gonna do something. Yeah, right, our Everett. There was a great senator that used to say, my Everett. I corrected him. Got in trouble for it, but I said it's our Everett. The great chiefs of police. One is Kirby. We should have never had the Everett massacre. That should have never happened. That would not happen today. Hartley, he's dead now, but I knew all these people. Well, Kirby I didn't know, but I knew Hartley. He thought he owned this town. It was his town. It's our town. And I want to make it is our town. The citizens of Everett's town. And you guys all got to remember that. If I hear anything different, I'm going to jump down your throat. In the old days, they jumped down your throat. I got to say something to Cassie. She's doing a darn good job. Cassandra, right? Just shake your head. You know you're doing a good job. And you know what? She's the second lady mayor. The first lady mayor didn't last. And I'm not going to say who it was. She should have never got elected. But this one is a good one. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to show a famous teacher of mine, Jack Metcalf, would say, shut up and sit down. I'm out.
Okay, thank you. Was that
That's all we have.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time for council comments and liaison reports. Councilmember Ryan.
Great, it's always fun starting things off. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Apologize, scribbled notes, so bear with me. This Monday, I attended the Port Gardner Neighborhood Association meeting and then did a hop, skip, and jump, or I started at Glacier View and then a hop, skip, and jump over to Port Gardner. It was a great chance to meet folks and hear some updates. I did want to share that at next month's Port Gardner Neighborhood Association meeting, which is the second Monday of every month, they will be hosting it at Obsidian Beer Hall. So if folks are interested in joining, which you definitely should, please swing by Obsidian Beer Hall June 10th at 7 p.m. They're going to be opening it up special just for the neighborhood association. So folks don't go to Sequoia, come over to Obsidian and enjoy a neighborhood meeting. Also, at the Glacier View Neighborhood Association, there were quite a few questions and frustrations about street noise. I mean, the neighborhood, just the way it's situated, they have Colby on one side and Rucker and Evergreen on the other side, and they're kind of surrounded by some main thoroughways, and there's a lot of frustrations with speeding, of course, but then also the modified exhausts that are just completely disruptive for neighborhood settings, and I'm sure folks at Emma Ewell Park get disrupted by it as well. So I know it had been discussed at a public safety meeting last August, and Jennifer and I had a chance to talk about it as well, but just wanted to bring it up again that it is a continuing frustration from our community members, and myself included. I'll share that I was at Totem recently with my little guy, and somebody buzzed up Rucker there and had their modified exhaust, and the whole restaurant like stopped. A baby started crying, like it just completely disrupted everybody. And so I'm curious too, I know Councilmember Zarlingo had mentioned it once that there might be like a Pareto efficiency curve for the number of offenders versus how disruptive they are to the community. So I wanted to share that, and then also request for our community safety committee to possibly look into the as our red light cameras are rolling out, there's also the cameras that can measure sound at intersections and can be more accurate on those decibel levels that are needed to provide enforcement on the vehicles that are being too loud. So I would like to make a request of our community safety committee to look into that. And let's see, earlier this evening, speaking of traffic, we had our Parks and Quality of Life Committee meeting, and there was a presentation by Dan Ernessy about parking downtown, and Liz Stedding from the Downtown Everett Association also joined. And there had been 3 different parking studies done over the last decade, and the most recent was published in February of 2020, if we all want to do a time trip on that one. So it's being dusted off and re-looked at for what elements of and recommendations from the study are still applicable. So coming the next soonest thing that we'll be seeing is a first reading on May 29th for a relook at our Fund 430, which is specifically for the Everett Park Garage. The current code is obsolete at this point because of some other changes over time, so we'll be having a relook at that to revise for the Fund 430 for the Everett Park Garage. That'll be coming down the pike. And there's also just a further discussion about parking downtown and the possible implementation of paid parking, but also with the consideration of ways that we can support business owners, employees, especially folks that maybe have off hours of when they come and go, and just how parking can help, a well-managed parking program can help support the economic vitality of our downtown space. So interesting stuff. And I believe that might be all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bader.
Thanks. I was at Port Gardner on Monday evening with Councilmember Ryan, and prior to that, Council of Neighborhoods meeting, Riverside last night. I think I'm at Northwest on Thursday, so that just reminds me to say how much I appreciate the hard work of all our neighborhood leaders, and as well as those who turn out for the neighborhood meetings to connect with their community and help build up their neighborhoods. So I just want to make those remarks, and other than that, no report and no other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Toohey.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Rabbi Court for coming this evening. She has already left, but I really appreciated what she said and sharing the story and reminding us of the many challenges our diverse community has throughout the world. So anyway, I wanted to thank her for coming by.
Thank you. And Councilmember Vogler, would you like someone to read? Okay. All right. Is there anything else some of us could read for you on your behalf? Okay. Thank you.
For the oral record, it says, "Thank you, Rabbi."
Okay, thank you for that. Councilmember Fossey.
No questions or comments tonight.
All right. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Thank you. Well, last week I was absent from this meeting, traveling to visit family. Happy early 91st birthday, Mom. When the council voted as part of the group of consent items to approve the Silver Lake hydroplane races put on by the Seattle Outboard Association for the 2 days of the first weekend in June, I did want to make a few remarks about that, sort of to explain what we and I do here in that area. And there's a special purpose permit for racing on the lake, because normally power boats and that kind of stuff is not allowed there. It affects both the vast majority of the lake shore at Silver Lake Park and the vast majority of the lake itself. This event temporarily replaces a recreation environment that's open, human-powered, quiet, and primarily Everett residents or immediate area residents with something that's limited to a specific group, is motorized, loud, and primarily not residents of the Everett area. The group then is given use of these areas of the lake and the park from 6:30 or 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for both days of the weekend. And I'll note by loud that I'm not talking in general terms here. The fastest boats are measured at over 100 dB loudness at a distance of over 150 yards. So this is definitely a motorized event, kind of contrast with what normally happens there on the summer weekends. Now, of course, there are tourism and spectator benefits, potentially some overnight stays and restaurant business, as this expanded event should draw participants from a wider area around the state anyway. And a diversity of uses of our city parks and resources is a real benefit. It helps us better use the resources that we have here in Everett and helps showcase the city itself. So all good things, but of course these are trade-offs, and that's the kind of thing this council, advised by our Parks Department and the Board of Park Commissioners, are here to make. Now, I've resisted some suggestions to turn this approval into a simple administrative decision because there are indeed complex trade-offs, especially since, after decades as a single-day event, this event now takes up an entire one of our precious summer weekends. And as we all know, June can be cool and wet, and maybe the races will displace relatively few boaters and parks goers. However, the loss to Everett residents of one of our glorious, sunny, early summer weekends, whenever they happen, in its entirety might well sting. And in walking around in the past in this event, we've met disappointed parks goers who didn't know about the event and couldn't use the shoreline or the water. So really, that's why we've retained, and I think we should retain, accountable public officials advised by our groups and our department administration here to make those choices. So I did want to raise that because if you're anywhere near that area June 1st and 2nd, and especially if it's a nice day, the parking lot will be packed, the water will be packed, especially these days as we have the perimeter of it with the paddle boats and all that. And I encourage any feedback, especially how the lake is used that way, to see if that's, again, how our residents want this to go. We'll do this again next year. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I have a few things. Today, the Herald interviewed the mayor, mostly, and myself, and it was strictly information gathering. It wasn't an endorsement type interview. And I have to compliment the mayor, and the presentation was very factual, and there was a lot of data, and the Herald asked a lot of questions, so I just appreciate.
About the levy.
Oh, yes, sorry. And you know what, I'm already, thank you. It was about the levy lid lift, and so thank you for that. Yeah, I'm already in that mode. Everything, it seems, around us has been about that. So, yeah, so thank you, Mayor, for your presentation and the information, and the Herald asked a lot of questions, a lot of in-depth ones, and we had our finance director there also to answer a lot of data questions, so it was really informative. So also, I attended the South Forest Park neighborhood meeting last night, and I think it was the mayor's first presentation to a neighborhood group about the levy lid lift, and it went well. There was a lot of questions that went long. It wasn't the only thing on the neighbors' mind. They're very interested in that area about the bike paths that run through the streets, and noise and public safety were two of their big issues, traffic especially. late last week, I went to an event supporting an organization called Child Strive. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They provide child and family counseling services for underprivileged groups. They do childcare training for both the families and parents, and also do for future childcare givers. One thing I really like about this organization is their mission, and they really strive on the equity and inclusion, and they are very relational. So you just don't show up with this group and get one visit. You better expect to be loved on for a while, because they'll be calling you, they come to your house, they do home visits for prenatal care. Is obviously, I've never been pregnant, obviously, but if you are, sometimes mobility is a challenge, right? So they come to your house, they build relationships, and I just saw story after story about how a relationship was built with a future mother, and half of them join the organization and stay on, and it's just a great family atmosphere. So then we have two main offices there in the South Everett, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm going to take a tour of one of their offices. It was fantastic. The next thing I wanted to talk about is more of on the sad note, and on May 4th, one of our largest companies in the world, Boeing, decided that the Boeing firefighters do not deserve the same pay as municipal firefighters. And they ceased negotiations over their contract and locked them out. This is unheard of from my perspective, the point of view that somehow that the protectors of one of the largest assets in our community and 20+ thousand workers in that facility isn't a mission statement of its importance. So those firefighters are well trained. They're emergency medical technicians. They have a lot of similar to the training that I've had in my past: confined space, hazardous materials response training, emergency management, even some specialty training from NASA on some of the contracts they have. So I really hate to see these type of labor disputes. I know Boeing is going through some challenges with a safety image of their airplanes, and this just doesn't build well for what they're trying to accomplish as an organization. These firefighters, these men and women are there to protect our not only the workers, but also those around the community. So I really hope and that this this lockout ends very quickly, and that the management team, I know they're very good, and I hope that they can solve the differences very quickly. So, thank you. So that's all my report. Councilmember Fossey.
I forgot that I did have one thing that I wanted to add to
Yeah,
my
go.
comments. I would like to make the motion to adjust our restrictions on birth centers being allowed on first floors, and to work with staff. And I believe I have to make a motion to do that in order at council and be seconded in order to work with staff to create that.
Okay. So there's been a motion. Could you help our city clerk? Can you kind of repeat that a little bit? Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Oh.
Okay, we got a second. All right, so could you repeat what you're...
To update our, to work with our policy staff, legal, on updating our code so that birth centers are exempted from the prohibition on first floor
Okay,
businesses.
so we have 2 council members supporting it, so we'll work with the city attorney to come up with some language and be presented at the council at a later time.
And I'll work with the planning director on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, do we have administrative update?
Yes, I think 4 things. But you had a couple weeks off where I didn't have any comments. So first, our long-range planning folks are relaunching a round of community outreach for the comprehensive plan update. That's starting soon, so I'm just flagging it because you might see them out and about. There's a few bigger events at the end of June, neighborhoods, community events. You'll get a briefing on that on May 29th, so in advance of like the full scope of it, but just in case so that you can be aware of that. Last week, you heard some comments from a member of the public regarding shopping carts on city streets and in the community. The city actually has a shopping cart recovery program that we launched in 2022. Since then, we've recovered over 1,100 carts and returned them to retailers. Last month, 39 unoccupied carts were returned to retailers. Several individuals who did have carts that were occupied were provided with a bag and services such as the diversion center. Someone got, one of our staff.
And it's a nice new duffel bag. It's not just like a garbage bag, just
Yeah.
let you know. We give them a brand new duffel bag of stuff.
Yeah, and apparently also a free walker, because one of the folks that they had contact with was using the cart as a walker, so they, our staff were went to the Goodwill and got them a walker that they could use, so wanted to note that. And then two other things. So the short one from our police department, I wanted to note for council that next week, the Safe Community Committee is hearing an update on a new program to launch the use of automated license plate reading cameras and also pan, tilt, and zoom cameras that we would have at 3 parks, Walter E. Hall, Lyons, and Jackson. The chief is starting to do outreach to neighborhood groups, so wanted to make sure that you're all aware so that you can tune in to that committee meeting next week if you want to hear more about it. And then last one, last weekend had some bright spots, as some of you mentioned, really packed farmers market and lots of folks celebrating their moms, but it was also a very tough one for everyone navigating our roads by car. Not too long ago, WashDOT informed us that they had to construct a necessary change order project for concrete paving on I-5. I-5 can accommodate a maximum of 7,000 cars per hour, and that capacity was brought down to 1,500. The city took a number of actions to mitigate that impact, and though we know it was a tough weekend, we did do what we could. We ran on Broadway, we ran streetlight timing under a maximum coordination scenario. That means that we gave full priority to everybody going northbound to push them through as much as we could. We put 5 I-5 detour signs along Broadway to try to keep traffic on Broadway and off local streets as much as possible. Installed local access only at 9 intersections, restrictions in North Everett. And we had a sign crew out, making sure that all those detour and access signs stayed up and in place, although, you probably saw them down, but if you did, they'd be back out there to put them back up. And then we closed Skyline Drive to through traffic at the 529 interchange to discourage cut-throughs. We're continuing to work really to defeat unlawful U-turns onto Riverside Road that impact businesses, residents added flags to those signs. And then, of course, our communications folks, I can say folks, there's like 2 of them really. So they worked with large employers, the hospital, the port, and other businesses, and tried to amplify all the WashDOT social media messages. Good news about all of that is that was one weekend. That I-5 project is done. 529 is still down to 1 lane through late September, but at least the major one was just that really difficult weekend. So, all right, that's it.
Thank you. City Attorney, do you have anything for us tonight?
A little bit. There's no executive session. I do have a brief report. Several council members had asked for an update on the pallet shelter appeal, so I will just go over that at a very high level. You may or may not know that the planning director issued 2 decisions about 3 months ago. The first was an administrative use decision authorizing the placement of 20 pallet shelters, which you'd previously approved funding for, at 200 Severs Ducey Road, which is the property just north of Phil Johnson Ball Field. Is currently about 70 acres of dirt and mud fenced off from the public. And seems like a pretty good location for that because of the adjacent land uses. He also issued what's called a determination of non-significance under SEPA, the State Environmental Policy Act, which is simply an analysis and decision stating that the project is not anticipated to have any significant adverse environmental impacts that would require preparation of an environmental impact statement. Shortly after that, those two decisions were issued. They were appealed by Marty Robinette and his group called Friends of Phil Johnson Ballfield. A couple weeks later, as the hearing examiner procedures dictate, there was a pre-hearing conference where we simply set the schedule for motions and other things leading up to the hearing. Several weeks after that, the appellants filed a summary judgment motion looking to dismiss the case or win the case based on 4 different issues. I filed a response. The hearing examiner ruled in our favor, so those survived to the hearing. 2 weeks ago, I submitted, and the other side submitted, legal briefs leading up to the hearing. Thursday, the hearing took place, evidentiary hearing with witnesses, Councilmember Schwab, and I'm not sure, Councilmember Tui, if you did attend, I know you had asked about it, attended remotely. And the last step now is filing post-hearing memorandum, which is essentially a written closing argument combined with a final legal brief, which is due tomorrow. So I'm hoping this meeting doesn't run too long because I'll be back at my office tonight finishing that up to get it filed tomorrow. There are some complex legal issues I feel good about, but there are some complex legal issues here. And the appellant has hired a very reputable Seattle land use law firm and thrown a lot of money at this. It makes me a little nostalgic for private practice, seeing how much they've spent on their private lawyer. I'm handling this myself. We did not farm it out to an outside law firm, partly because it's so substantial it would burn through about half of my outside counsel budget in one fell swoop, and partly because this is what I did for 25 years before I came to the city. I think we've prepared and briefed this about as well as we possibly could, but now it's up to the hearing examiner, and as soon as we get that decision in about 15 days, I will notify you of the outcome.
Okay. Is there any questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to consent items 1 through 5. Do I hear a motion?
Councilmember Bader moves the consent items.
Second the motion?
Okay, motion has been made in second for consent items 1 through 5. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Ryan? Yes. Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely? Councilmember Vogely votes yes. Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. Okay, moving on to proposed action items, second reading, 6, 7, and 8. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none. The third and final reading will be next week. Moving to action item number 9. Council Bill 2404-01, third and final reading, adopt an ordinance relating to amendments to the city procurement policy, amending ordinance 3781-20. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, motion and second's been made. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, will you take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan? Yes. Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely? Councilmember Vogely votes yes. Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. Okay, moving on to item number 10, Council Bill 2404-02, second and third and final reading, adopt an ordinance relating to the ambulance and emergency first aid services, repealing, amending, and recodifying certain sections of Chapter 5.72 of the Everett Municipal Code. Do I have a motion?
Councilmember Bader so moves.
Okay.
Second the motion?
Okay, motion and seconds are made. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan? Yes. Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely? Councilmember Vogely votes yes. Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. Okay, item number 11. Council Bill 2404-03, second and third final reading, adopt an ordinance relating to special business licenses and regulations and repealing Chapter 5.20, 5.92, 5.96, and 5.102 of the Everett Municipal Code. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and second's been made. Are any questions? Okay, hearing none. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Ryan? Yes. Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely? Councilmember Vogely votes yes. Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. Okay, our item number 12. Council Bill 2404-04, second and third final reading, adopt an ordinance relating to the emissions tax, repealing Chapter 3.20 of the Municipal Code, and adopting a new Chapter 3.20 of the Everett Municipal Code. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion and second's been made. Are there any questions? Councilmember Tui?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Susie for getting back to me today. I had some clarification questions, and I appreciate that, so thank you. Other than that, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely? Councilmember Vogely votes yes. Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Vice President Zarlingo?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes, and we have no,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did mean to mention one thing when I gave my report, that if anybody would like a link to the hearing, contact me and I will forward that to you, although I will warn you that it's not as compelling as the OJ trial, but I'd be glad to forward that to you.
okay, thank you very much. And since we have no further business, we are now adjourned.